Welcome to this amazing story. Today, I'll share my story that changed my life, and I'm sure that this story will change your life too. Before we begin, please subscribe my channel, and don't forget to like the video. Watch carefully until the end, because it will really change your life. Now let's begin the story. My name is Michael. I am 40 years old, and I live in New York City. People say I am successful. I have a big apartment with glass windows that show the whole city, a nice car, and a company that makes a lot of money. From the outside, my life looks perfect. But inside, I feel something is missing. I have money, but no peace. I have comfort, but no joy. I smile in meetings, but at night, I sit alone and ask myself, is this really life? Every morning I wake up early, drink my coffee, and rush to work. My phone never stops ringing. Clients, meetings, deadlines. Every day feels like a race. I work 15 hours a day, even on weekends. My goal used to be simple: make more money. But the more I earned, the emptier I felt. I stopped visiting my parents, stopped calling old friends, and even forgot how to laugh. I was rich in my bank account, but poor in my heart. One cold winter night, I left my office very late. It was almost midnight, and the streets were quiet. I was tired, angry, and stressed. As I walked toward my car, I saw an old man sitting on the sidewalk near a closed restaurant. He wore a dirty brown jacket and had a small blanket around his shoulders. His beard was long, and his hands were shaking from the cold. Beside him was a small sign made from cardboard. It said, "I'm hungry. Please help." I don't know why, but I stopped. Normally, I would just walk past. But something inside me told me to look at him. Our eyes met. For a second, I felt a strange connection. He smiled at me, even though his lips were blue from the cold. I walked closer and asked, "Are you okay?" He nodded slowly. "I'm fine, sir. Just a little cold," he said softly. His voice was gentle, almost peaceful. I opened my wallet and gave him some money. He looked at it, smiled again, and said, "Thank you. But can I ask you something?" I was surprised. I said, "Sure." He looked directly into my eyes and said, "You have everything, don't you? A nice suit, a car, success. But why do you look so empty?" That question hit me like a punch in the chest. For a moment, I didn't know what to say. How did this stranger see through me so easily? I forced a small smile and said, "Maybe I'm just tired." He nodded slowly and said, "Tired? Yes, I understand that kind of tired. Not of the body, but of the soul." I stood there for a few seconds, speechless. Then I gave a weak smile and said goodbye. I walked to my car, but my mind couldn't stop thinking about his words. "You look empty." That sentence followed me home like a shadow. When I got home, I poured a glass of wine and sat near the window. The city lights looked beautiful, but for the first time, they felt meaningless. I thought about that man sitting in the cold with nothing, yet somehow he looked calmer than me. I, who had everything, felt lost. I went to bed, but I couldn't sleep. His words kept echoing in my mind. The next morning, I tried to forget the whole thing. I went back to my routine: coffee, traffic, meetings, fake smiles. But that man's face appeared in my thoughts again and again. Every time I saw my reflection in a mirror, I heard his voice: "You look empty." 3 days later, I couldn't take it anymore. After work, I decided to go back to that same place. I didn't even know why. Maybe curiosity, maybe guilt, maybe something deeper. It was still cold outside. I walked around the corner near the restaurant, and yes, he was there again, sitting in the same spot, holding the same cardboard sign. This time, I didn't just give him money. I bought 2 cups of hot coffee and 2 sandwiches from a nearby shop. When I handed him the food, his eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you, sir. he said, smiling warmly. Sit with me, please. For a second, I hesitated. People walking by looked at me strangely. A man in a suit sitting beside a homeless person. But I didn't care. I sat down next to him on the cold sidewalk. We started talking. His name was Samuel. He told me he used to be a musician. He played the piano in small bars and loved jazz. He had a wife and a daughter once, but they died in a car accident 10 years ago. After that, his life fell apart. He lost his job, his home, and his will to live. But somehow, he found peace in helping other homeless people. He shared the little food he got with others. I listened quietly, my heart heavy. He had lost everything, yet his eyes were full of kindness. How do you stay so calm? I asked. He smiled and said, because I stopped chasing what doesn't matter. I learned that peace is not in money, it's in meaning. Those words shook me deeply. That night, I didn't just see a homeless man. I saw a mirror reflecting the truth about myself, that I was rich in things, but poor in purpose. That night, as I sat beside Samuel, I felt something change inside me. His words were simple, but they touched a place in my heart that had been silent for years. I realized how long it had been since I truly talked to someone. Not about business, not about money, but about life itself. I asked him, don't you ever feel angry about what happened? Losing your family, your home, your music? He looked at me and said quietly, I used to. For years, I blamed the world, God, everyone. But one day, I understood that pain doesn't disappear when you hate. It disappears when you forgive, even if you have no one to forgive but yourself. I just sat there, speechless. The way he spoke, calm and gentle, made me feel small. I had everything, yet I complained about traffic, stress, and meetings. This man had lost everything, yet he was at peace. He took a small harmonica from his pocket and started to play a soft tune. The sound was quiet but full of emotion, sad and beautiful at the same time. The street was empty, the air cold, and his music echoed through the night. I closed my eyes and listened. For the first time in years, I felt something real, peace. When he stopped, I said, your music is beautiful. He smiled and said, music is like life. You can't control every note, but you can still make it beautiful. Those words stayed in my heart. I gave him my coat before leaving and promised to visit again. On my way home, I didn't think about emails or deadlines. I thought about meaning. I thought about peace. The next few days at work felt different. My coworkers noticed I was quieter, calmer. I started to listen more, smile more, and even help others without expecting anything back. I realized how much I had ignored the world outside my office. That weekend, I returned to the same street with some food and a blanket for Samuel. But when I reached the spot, he wasn't there. I waited for almost an hour, walking up and down the sidewalk, but he never came. I asked a shopkeeper nearby if he had seen him. The man said, "Oh, the old homeless guy? He was here yesterday, but he left early this morning. He said he was going to visit an old friend." I felt sad. I wanted to thank him again. I wanted to tell him how much he had already changed me. Before I left, I noticed a small piece of paper stuck under the bench where he used to sit. I picked it up. It was a note. The handwriting was shaky, but I could read it clearly. It said, "Thank you, Michael. You reminded me that kindness still exists. Don't forget, peace begins when you start giving." I held that note in my hands for a long time. For the first time in years, I felt tears on my face, not from pain, but from something beautiful, gratitude. After reading Samuel's note, I stood there in silence. Cars passed, people walked, the city kept moving, but for me, time stopped. His words echoed in my mind. Peace begins when you start giving. I went back home, but something inside me had changed completely. That night, I opened my laptop and looked at all my business files, numbers, and projects. For the first time, none of them looked important. I realized that I had been chasing success for so long that I had forgotten to live. I had been collecting money, not memories, building walls, not connections. The next morning, I made a decision. I called my assistant and said, "Cancel all my meetings for today." She was shocked, but I didn't care. I took my car and drove to a nearby community center. I walked in and asked if they needed volunteers. The woman there smiled and said, "We always do." That day, I spent hours helping serve food to homeless people. And you know what? It felt better than closing any business deal I'd ever made. As I handed out plates of food, I thought about Samuel. Every smile I saw reminded me of his eyes, kind, peaceful, and full of meaning. I started visiting that center every weekend. I didn't do it for money, for fame, or for photos. I did it because for the first time in my life, I felt truly alive. Weeks passed. I never saw Samuel again, but his lesson stayed with me. I began donating part of my company's profit to shelters and programs that help homeless people find jobs. I also reconnected with my parents, visited old friends, and spent time just walking in the park, feeling the wind, watching the sunset. Simple things, things I had forgotten to love. One Sunday afternoon, I was sitting on a park bench with a cup of coffee, watching children play. A man sat next to me and said, "You look happy, my friend." I smiled and said, "Yes, I finally am." He laughed and said, "That's rare in this world." I nodded. It took me a long time to understand that happiness isn't about having more. It's about giving more. He looked at me with respect and said, "That's a good lesson." I smiled again, thinking of Samuel. That night, before going to bed, I took Samuel's note from my wallet. I still carried it everywhere I went. I read it again slowly. "Peace begins when you start giving." I whispered softly, "Thank you, Samuel. You truly changed my life forever." Sometimes the people we ignore are the ones who carry the biggest lessons. Kindness, peace, and happiness are not things we buy. They are things we give. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget, like this video. Subscribe to our channel for more inspiring English stories. And share it with someone who needs a little hope today.